Yep. Hello, everybody. Beautiful Saturday afternoon here, Appalachia, Memorial Day weekend. Rains are coming. Supposed to start in about half an hour here. Might be a weekend of rain, but I hope you're doing all right wherever you are. This week, all the talks about emotions and still trying to finish part 9 of the divine healing the divine masculine, which is going to be more about emotions. This week has been a focus on acceptance, accepting things as they are. And it's not easy. I mean, it can be extremely difficult. Anybody who has, for example, the neighbor from hell, you know what I'm talking about. Um, Whenever we live in these so-called communities, and I have a joke that most of the people don't, at least where I'm at here and where other places I've been, don't really understand the word community. If you want to understand the word community, look at the Amish. But we just are a bunch of individuals and couples living in close proximity to one another. So this week has been about accepting. I have a lot of part-time people around me who come in for either weekends or vacations or just for the summertime, coming up from Florida. And they tend to bring Florida with them. And that's been happening this week. And so I have been focusing on my own acceptance. When I look at, and the next Healing the Divine Masculine is going to have a section on David Hawkins' map of consciousness. And I was reading about that again this week and studying the map and asking for guidance on this, because if I'm in the lower vibrational energies, such as anger, pride, we can get into being vengeful or antagonistic. Whereas if I can put myself up into acceptance, and that is one of the levels on the map of consciousness, where it goes from shame at the bottom and up through despair and guilt and fear and anger and pride, and then courage, and then a couple levels above courage is acceptance. To accept life as it is. It's something that I've been reminding myself every day this week, to just accept people and life as it is. Because we all have our own perspectives, our own ideas of what, for example, what it might be to live in a beautiful area like this, what it might mean to live in a community. Everybody's going to have a different idea of that, of those things. So we have to accept each other. Not always easy. Yeah. So a lot of judgmentalism comes in. So I have some long talks with myself. But when it's real close to you, like if it's family or people you work with or neighbors, that's when it's really challenging. I find that to be more challenging than social media. It's easy to accept people on social media because you can just ignore them, you know. And we have to do the same kind of practice, if we can, in a polite way, for example, with our neighbors. We can't always ignore our colleagues that we work with, um, as much as we would like to sometimes. But, acceptance coming from the heart space takes a lot of practice. Takes a lot of practice. And a lot of desire and effort to be accepting. So I'm sure everybody watching this knows what it feels like to have a difficult time accepting others. And it's just something that we have to put effort into and ask for help. Ask for help. Whether it's your higher self, God, ask for help. And that's what I was doing today. I have a fire going over in my other fire pit. I was burning leaves and stuff. And I was just, give it to the fire. Just give this to the fire. Just as a way of surrendering. The gentleman who wrote the book called Power versus Force, where he introduced the map of consciousness, I read this about 10 years ago. He also wrote a book called Surrender, which is really good. And sometimes we just have to surrender to this stuff, because, we're not going to change other people. We can only change ourselves. So the theme this week has been arrogance and acceptance. It's the arrogance that I know what's better for you, or I know what's better for the team, or I know what's better for the community. That's what gets us into trouble. Well, but more importantly, it makes life just kind of not fun. To be walking around in anger with vengeful thoughts and want to antagonize somebody. That's a lousy way to spend the day. And if we can get into acceptance, then we open up to the good of other people, our surroundings, the events of our lives. And one of the things I was thinking about today and yesterday is not only just the acceptance, but what it does energetically to us if we act on. This is the conversation I was having with myself this week. If we act on the idea of being antagonistic or vengeful to somebody else, then we are giving them our power. And we're also creating a connection, and then not a healthy connection either. All right. Let's say, for example, you have a neighbor that's doing something that's against the rules. We don't have an HOA here, but let's say you had an HOA and you have somebody who's doing something against the rules, and you go and file a lawsuit to stop them from doing it. Well, besides being antagonistic and vengeful, you've now created this connection, and it's an unhealthy connection. So this is where we have to stop and think long and hard about what action are we going to take? Or can we practice, what the Taoists call Wu Wei, which is action through inaction? Now, sometimes we have to take action. We have to defend ourselves. We have to stand up for what we believe is right. But we have to know where that line is. And once again, that's where we ask for help. We have to understand where that line is, because as soon as we take some action against people in that antagonistic or vengeful way, we are opening ourselves up to some very low vibrational or negative energies. And that's not healthy for us. Okay. So if the opportunity presents itself and we can ignore what is happening around us and not let it affect us to the point where we want to take vengeful action, then we are in our own power, and we are treating our mind, body, spirit complex with love. And that's important, because people are going to do what they're going to do. And we have to use, it's I've said this before, it's one of my favorite words, discernment. We have to use discernment about where we want to focus our energies and our thoughts and our actions. And that's where we have to learn also how to breathe. We got to take a breath before we do something that we wish we hadn't done. And we've all done that. If you've lived long enough, you have. So that's been the theme of the week. I'll call it arrogance and acceptance. Double A. So with that, I am done, I think, with landscaping for today. And we'll be back tomorrow for some more, hopefully without the rain. Meanwhile, have a wonderful Memorial Weekend if you're in the United States. I was growing up in Michigan. This was always marked the first day or the first weekend of summer. So a lot of people heading up north, northern Michigan, as we call it, up north. I miss that, going up north. Ludington and Tequamanon Falls, around Newberry, Pictured Rocks, all those beautiful places. Really nice. So until next time, if you're in Michigan, drop me a line. Tell me how wonderful it is up north. Cosmic energy, earth energy, heart energy. Send loving heart energy out to all beings, all timelines, all realities. May this day be filled with compassion, loving kindness, and courage. From the heart. Till next time.